Hi, so today we're making the Neo Crossbody by Kaur thread patterns. It's Sandeep's second pattern. She's also got the Haley wristlet as well. Both are absolutely fab patterns. This is a great little crossbody. Quite an easy sew. It doesn't take very long to make. It has been a little while since I've sewn this pattern, so I might be referring back to the pattern instructions a few times. The pattern is a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance throughout the pattern unless states otherwise, and I am going to make it in a grey vinyl with the grey marble accent piece. This is for me because I'm going away on holiday next week and I want a little crossbody bag to take away with me, but I want something that's quite fun. So I'm sewing on a Jack H2 industrial machine. I haven't had the machine very long, so I'm still getting used to it, so I might be muttering under my breath with it, but bear with me. I'm using Tech 70 thread both in the upper and the lower bobbin, and I'm using an 18 needle. So I do all of my construction at a 2.5 stitch length, and then I top stitch at a 4.5. So if you see me adjusting my stitch lengths, that's what I'm changing them to. So I'm going to start off. I've already done my crossbody strap and my connectors. I'll post a link to the video that I've got showing how I make a crossbody strap and connectors, because it's pretty much the same whichever bag you're doing. And I've done a 1 inch crossbody strap and I've done my connectors as 3/4 of an inch. So my crossbody strap was cut out at 4 inches wide by the length of the vinyl, and my connectors were cut out at 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches, and then that made 3/4 of an inch connectors. So I've already attached them to my D-rings. I've just got these little square D-rings that they're attached to, and I'm just going to start by starting off with the front panel and starting with the flap. So I'm just going to sew all the way around a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So the front of this flap is vinyl, and the inside of the flap is my exterior fabric. I've cut it so that when the flap is folded up, you can see the fabric the right way up. So I've cut it the opposite way for the inside. So I'm just trimming this down with my pinking shears, and the cotton fabric on the inside has been interfaced with a woven interfacing, and then also stabilised with Decaville light out of the seam allowances. So I'm just turning this through, and obviously because it's vinyl I can't obviously use an iron to iron this, so I am just going to be using my fingers and my little pokey thing. And then you'll see I've actually marked for where my snap placement needs to be. So I'm going to make my like little snips to insert that, then top stitch, then put the little snap connector in. I'm just going to top stitch around this before I insert that magnetic snap. I'm just changing to my top stitch length. Now I'm just going to insert the female portion of the magnetic snap. Because I'm installing it into cotton, I always like to just put a little bit of fabric glue where I'm going to be inserting. I basically just think it helps to keep it secure, and it also helps to stop that cotton sort of fraying and becoming unstuck during use. So just to protect the fabric from those prongs, I'm just going to use a little bit of duct tape, and then I'm just going to baste the top closed. So that is our front flap already done. I'm just going to pop that to one side, and then we can start on our slip pocket pieces. So I have them here. So I have this part is the front of my slip pocket and this part as the back, and I need to mark placement for my other magnetic snap piece. And again, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to just make those incisions where the prongs need to go, just so that they're already done before I start stitching. So the front of the slip pocket and the lining of the slip pocket are sewn together at 3/8 of an inch. And then this is just top stitched 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Now change to my top stitch length. I'm going to do the same when popping on the male part of the connector. Just use a little bit of glue where I've made those little cuts. I'm going to pop the connector in, but what I'm also going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of Decaville light just behind those prongs, just to give it a little bit extra stability, so as it's being opened and closed, it's not pulling on that cotton fabric. just have the back, which I now can't find. Oh, there it is. And again, just the same as I did on the other part, that's then just put behind to protect it. So then this gets lined up with the exterior, and I'm just going to baste this in place. Stops it moving round as I'm attaching the other pieces, and then our front flap gets connected at the snaps, and I'm just going to make sure that that is the same distance on either side, and I'm just going to baste this in place as well. So that's our front panel starting to come together, and we just need to attach our accent piece. So there's two of these being cut, they're both exactly the same. And these are attached at the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I'm just going to top stitch along this seam. So that is our front panel completed. You have your slip pocket with your little magnetic clasp, and we're going to move on to the back panel. So you have back panel facing, and you need to make a couple of marks on this that we're going to sew. So we need to mark in 3/4 from each edge, and then we need to mark 7/8 down and draw a line. And then we connect our 3/4 marks, and this is going to be what we sew. So this needs to be right sides together. I'm just going to mark my centres so that I know I get these lined up exactly right. So we're going to sew from that 3/4 of an inch mark down all the way along, and then back up the other side. And then we need to snip into these corners. So we need to get as close as we can to the stitching, but without cutting through the stitching. And this will give us a nice crisp clean edge. Now the main panel of this has been interfaced with the woven interfacing, and then this facing has actually been interfaced with a non-woven interfacing. I just find that using a non-woven on anything like this, so the same as if you were doing a zipper, like an interior zipper, I would always do that with a facing with a non-woven interfacing. So I'm just going to work these seams and just give them a little clip, and then I'm going to take it to the iron, and I'm going to press it so that it's really nice and crisp and nicely finished off. So I'm going to take that to the iron and I'm going to press that, and then I'll come back. So that's now been pressed, and we're going to move on to the zip portion. So you need to start with your zipper pocket piece facing up, and the zipper facing up with the zip to the right hand side, and then this needs to be basted on at about 1/4 inch away from the edge. And then you need to take this to the iron and press that down. So once that is pressed, I've just basted over the edge and cut off the excess, and I'm just going to burn the edge of that zip just so it doesn't unravel. And I'm just going to use a little bit of double-sided tape just to keep this in place as I attach it. So this is just lined up. Just need to make sure that it's roughly centered. And then we're just going to top stitch from the top all the way around to the bottom. I'm top stitching roughly about 1/8 inch away from the edge. And then the other side just gets brought up to meet at the top, basted in place. and then the other accent piece gets added to the top, right sides together, and again sewn on at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And just make sure your zipper pull is out of the way as you start to sew. And then that just needs to be top stitched in place. So that is our front and back panels done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just attach my connectors, because I have a terrible habit of forgetting to do it, and then I'm pretty much finished the bag, and then I remember that I haven't attached the connectors and it's too late and I've got to find another way to attach them. So I need to measure in 1 1/4 inches from the edge, and then I'm just going to baste these in place. I'm obviously doing it from the same edge on both sides, because once the bag's constructed and the sides are facing away from each other, they will be on opposite sides. So once the bag's constructed, one strap connector will be there and one strap connector will be there. So we're going to work on the interior zipper pocket of the lining. The lining does also have a card slot attachment to it as well, which I'm not going to go through today. The video was originally meant to be a live, and I didn't do the card slot in order to keep the live not too long, but unfortunately internet connection wasn't in our favour today, so hence why I'm recording it instead. So the card slot is quite easy to follow. All the instructions are in the pattern, and it's really easy to add. But I'm going to attach the zipper pocket to one piece of the lining. So I need to find my centres, and in the pattern you're given instructions as to where to create your box. I actually fluffed up and created it in the wrong place, hence why I've got 2 boxes. So those centres are marked, and right sides together match up the centres, and then you need to place your zipper pocket piece 1 1/2 inches up from the bottom. Now because I'm using cotton, I'm just going to use a little pin just to keep that in place while I sew it, and I'm just going to sew around this box, and I'm going to sew around the second box that I've created. So once you've sewn round that box, we need to make a cut through the centre. And I cut along the centre towards each end, and when I'm about 1.5 inches away from the edge, I then stop and I cut diagonally up to the corners. So I need to get as close to the stitching as I possibly can, but without cutting through the stitches. So it does help to have a really good pair of very sharp snips. I find that that's the best ones to use. And then this just needs to get pulled through. And then pressed to create your zipper opening. If you find that you've got little creases here, it might just be that you need to cut a little tiny touch up more to those stitch lines. You might not have got quite close enough. So just double check them. And if you haven't got quite close enough, just a tiny little bit more of a snip and then press it flat. So I'm going to go and press that and then I'll come back. Right, so I've just pressed that. It's not perfect, but I'm getting it as good as I can. And then we're just going to insert our zip. So I like to insert my zip so that they are on the left side opening to the right. And I usually I cut my zip a little bit longer and then I pull it out of the way, and then I start down here and stitch round, and then as I get to the end I pull the zip, pull into the space, and it means that I get a bit of a nicer finish and it's a little bit easier to sew. I'm just going to change my stitch length to my top stitching length. I'm just trying to make sure I've got that as centered as possible. You can use double-sided tape if you want to. And then when I sort of get back to roughly where I started with my stitching, then stop and lift my presser foot and just move my zip into the opening. So the pattern does use a number 5 zipper, but I've got a number 3 zipper in. That's just personal preference because I just prefer number 3 zippers. And I'm just going to pull my threads to the back. Sorry, my battery ran out there. Just had to quickly change it. So just pull the threads through to the back. and I've just pulled them to the underside, and then I'm just going to tie them off so they don't come undone. And then I don't have any back stitching on my zipper panel. So then you need to fold the top down to meet the bottom of the zipper panel, and then sew your sides up to create your zipper pocket. And I'm just going to turn the bottom up to create a bit of a seam. And then do the same on the other side. Then you can just cut off this excess zipper. But again, where you've cut it, just quickly burn those ends just to stop it fraying and unravelling. And I'm just cutting the excess from these corners. So that when it gets turned through, it's not as bulky. And now I'm just going to press those seams quickly, just that when we turn the bag through, it's easy to close up. So I'm going to leave my zipper pocket open. And then we have our other lining piece and our front and our back. So all of my cotton pieces have been interfaced with a cotton interfacing, so my lining pieces have all been interfaced with a cotton interfacing, and my vinyl hasn't been interfaced at all. So to prepare our zipper, I'm going to fold off the edges. So I pinch at about 1/2 inch down. And that creates a fairly neat end. So I literally pinch and twist and pull it up to meet those teeth, and then just to keep it together while I'm sewing it, I just melt those ends together. Trying not to burn my fingers. So then this needs to be cut to exactly 9 inches. Again, I'm just going to burn the ends. And then you just need the zipper tab end. Now because I'm using vinyl, mine is literally cut to 1 inch. If you were using fabric, follow the instructions in the pattern for how to do that, but you would literally cut it at 2 inches and fold into the centre and then fold in half again so that you don't have any raw edges. So I'm just going to attach this zipper end. And then we can start to construct the bag. So we're going to start with the front pocket, the front panel. So I'm literally going to fold it in half and find my centres and mark them. I'm not going to snip into my zip because I don't want the zip to fray, so I'm just going to mark them. And again, I like my zip to open left to right, so I'm just going to find those centres and match them up. And I'm just going to baste that zipper in place. The lining piece that doesn't have anything on it, or if you've done the card slots, it would have the card slots on it. I'm just going to attach that right sides together, matching everything up along that top edge, and these get sewn together at 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's the front and the back panel, sorry, the front and the front lining panel attached together. I'm not going to top stitch yet because that's going to be done after both sides have been attached. So again, I'm just going to find the centre of my back panel, match up those centre pieces. Oh, wrong side, my bad. So the right sides of your exterior should be facing each other. And then this just gets basted in place the same as before. And then the same as before, we just attach the back lining piece to the opposite side. So again, right sides together. And this gets attached to 1/4 inch seam allowance again. So this is when we're now going to top stitch, and we're going to top stitch all the way around. So starting here, all the way along, round this side, all the way down to the other side, and we only sew where the zip is. So making sure that your linings are nice and straight and that they're not caught. I'm just going to top stitch round. So we're ready to start and sew the bag up. So the bag is sewn together at 3/8 of an inch, and the lining is sewn together at 5/8 of an inch. This is to make sure that the lining is smaller than the bag, so that it fits nice and snugly. And I have just remembered that I haven't sewn together this back panel where I put my zipper pocket in. So I'm just going to quickly do that now. I'm going to have to kind of fudge it. Otherwise we would have had a pocket that had no sides sewn together and everything would have fallen out. I'm pleased I spotted that before I sewed it up. Right, so right sides of your exterior together and pin them together. I like to match up and make sure that my accent pieces match up and that the top edge of my bag matches up as well. So the way I like to do it, and it's just personal preference, you know, everybody's different, is I like to just sew the outside of my bag first at the 3/8 of an inch. Something wrong with my bobbin, I think. Just going to sew up to where my lining pieces start and stop there. So I'm actually going to leave the bottom of this bag open completely because I'm going to turn through the pocket. Oh, sorry, I'm going to turn through the lining and then close up through the pocket. So I'm starting my seam at the 5/8 of an inch, and then I'm going to taper off to meet the row of stitching that I did before. And this is just how I find it easier to get my pieces to line up properly. But see, it's personal preference. So I just need to box these outside corners. Just gonna take down the seam ever so slightly. Those extra threads as well. So at the 3/8 of an inch, I'm just going to sew over those corners. The excess, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to pull the bag through this big opening in the lining because it will be much easier to birth. Going to push all them corners out, make sure I haven't clipped my seams too close to the edge and cut through any of my stitching, because while this is still open would be the opportunity for me to put that right. Obviously I know I've put right the issue with the pocket on the back there, so that's all sorted. Just making sure that that's sitting nicely, and then to close up this bottom I'm going to go in through that zipper pocket and I'm going to pull my lining through. So I'm going to sew across the bottom here at that 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And because it's a little bit sort of bunched up, you'll probably have to pull it straight. And then I'm just going to box these corners the same way I did for the exterior. So I'm just going to line up those seams and sew with a 5/8 of an inch allowance, and then the same on the other side. And then we can just push that lining through and into. So you can just push that lining through and into the bag, and then we close up our zipper pocket. pushing that lining pocket into place. And then pushing the lining, making sure that that's going right into those bottom corners. And then all we need to do is attach our crossbody strap. So, and there's our Neo Crossbody all finished. Have your little front pocket, which is great for your phone. I've got quite a big phone. I've got an S20 that fits in there absolutely no problem. And then the inside of the bag will have our zipper pocket at the back, and then also our zipper pocket here as well. So that's great if you want to keep money, loose change of cards in the back there so that they're nice and secure. So that's it all finished. So thanks for joining me. I hope you found it helpful. I'm still quite new to making videos, so I do feel like I fluff up and it's a little bit disjointed sometimes, but hopefully I will get better as time goes on. So thanks for joining me, and thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.